So I'm finally back off my little break, and with it being a new month, it is time for another reptile room tour. So in this video we're going to be doing a sort of showcase of all of my reptiles to bring you up to date with how they're doing in September of 2018. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So first off in the reptile room tour we're going to be looking at Speckles the leopard gecko. His enclosure is exactly the same as it was in the last reptile room tour, although as I have said I do have plans to upgrade it in the coming months. But he himself, Speckles, is doing really well. He's eating sort of every 5th day because he really doesn't need any more than that. And he's coming out to bask pretty much every night under his UVB bulb. So he is doing really well, but there isn't much to say about him, so let's just take a look at him. So if we just take a little peep under this piece of cork bark here, you'll see Speckles. This is his warm side hide, and he sort of dug out a little burrow type thing underneath it, which is quite cool. But Speckles, he's about 100 grams, slightly above that, and he's a max snow leopard gecko, and I've had him for over a year now, and as I've said, he is doing really well. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at Splat the crested gecko. You can see his enclosure at the minute, which is a 45 by 45 by 60 centimetre tall glass Exoterra enclosure, which is bioactive and lit with UVB lighting, as is the case for all my reptiles. But we'll take a closer look at the setup in a minute. For now, let's have a look at Splat. If we go behind the plants here, you can see that Splat is hidden in his current favourite hide, which is a little hollowed out coconut I sort of prepared for him last year. He is doing really well, eating pretty much anything that I offer him, whether that's insects or fruit paste. So he is doing fantastic at the minute, but nothing's really changed with him. The only real change that's occurred to do with Splat is to do with his setup. So let's take a look at that. As you can see, since the last reptile room tour, I've hacked out a load of the pothos or devil's ivy because it was really taking over, and I have added this little red flower implant called an anthurium. I actually got this from a Tesco shop and just cleaned it out, and I made a video about how to do that the other week, so if you're interested there'll be a little card pops up in the top right hand corner of the screen right now. But the other change with this setup which I'm showing you is that the Jungle Dawn, which was a plant growth light I had on this enclosure, that had failed, and Arcadia very kindly sent me out a 13 watt replacement, and as you can see right now, the bromeliads that are directly under it, near Agelias, have really started blushing, turning pink, which is exactly what you want to see, so I am really happy with that. The next reptile I'm talking about is Red the Pecan Sake, and this is his new setup. So in the last reptile room tour I did, I think he was still in his 4 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot dimensioned enclosure, and he's now in a 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot one. So it is a major upgrade for him, and not only that, it's also bioactive and has UVB lighting, whereas his previous one didn't. So this is a major upgrade and probably the biggest little bit of change that has occurred in between reptile room tours. But yeah, this setup is really nice. It is one of my favourite setups that I've ever done. And Red has actually managed not to destroy it yet. But yeah, let's take a look at him. Unfortunately, because I can't move this hide with the plant going over it, I can't show you Red that well. Although if I just sort of lean over here, you can kind of see his tail poking out. But whether you can see him or not, Red, like the rest of my reptiles, thankfully, is doing really well at the minute, striking at his food all the time, and he's probably doing a lot better since I put him in this enclosure versus how he was doing in his old enclosure. In terms of like he's actually striking at his food, and he's not glass dancing nowhere near as much, which if you don't know is when snakes sort of go up and down the glass because they're bored, which I mean, that probably makes sense given that the enclosure's bigger, although I think that he might be eating more readily in this setup just because, well, it could be that he's getting more exercise, although it could be because he's got UVB lighting again. The UVA that's given off by those bulbs is supposed to be an appetite stimulant, so that would make sense, but anyway, that is it for Red, so let's move on to the final reptile. The final reptile that I've got to show you in today's video is Char the bearded dragon, and quite a lot has gone on with him since the last reptile room tour as well. So I think that last time he was still in his quarantine enclosure, and he's now in his 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot bioactive one instead. And he is doing, as I've said for the rest of my reptiles, thankfully, he is doing really well. Now, unfortunately though, he is refusing to eat anything but insects, so I have been trying a couple of different approaches to try and get him to eat his vegetables, which are more healthy for him at this time in his life. But nothing's really been working, so I'm now trying the cold turkey method, which basically entails feeding him nothing until he eats his veg, which I'll see how that works out, but hopefully he'll start eating in a couple of days, because obviously they know when they're hungry. If he's really hungry, he knows what food is, so he's going to eat it. But aside from that, as I've said, he's doing really, really well, and he is getting better at being handled now, so I like to take him out and let him run around on the floor a bit and just hold him and pet him and that. So Char is doing fantastic, and I am really happy with him. If you watched the update I did on Char a while ago, you might remember that he wasn't using his basking site at all, and he was just staying down on that branch at the cool end that he's on at the minute. So what I decided to do is put some more branches on the hot end to try and make it sort of more cosy for him in a sense, so that he feels more secure going to the hot end, and that has actually worked. He's been going down to the hot end a bit more, and he does seem to be a lot happier now, so I'm glad that's taken effect. And that takes us to the end of this reptile room tour. I do really hope that you've enjoyed it, because I've not really done a reptile room tour in a long time, and this is quite a long video I think, so hopefully it was worth it. And if you did like it, then please hit subscribe to see similar videos in the future, and do leave this video a like, and if you want to, pop a comment down in the comment section down below. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.